Okay, we're live. Hello, welcome everybody. Glad you can make it this evening to a very exciting meetup or hangout with my buddy here, Mr. Stephen Heath. This is Sean Hart coming live from Houston, Texas tonight, guys. Beautiful, sunny Houston, Texas. Don't miss Indiana at all. I left my pal Stephen back in Indiana to handle all the rain and snow for us.
Thank you.
So we're going to discuss a little bit of Chinese sourcing tonight. Stephen promises to keep it real simple and dumb it down, if you will. I've given him a little bit of precursor to my average audience and newbies when it comes to China sourcing. So I think that if he gets carried away a little bit too much there, we'll have to pull in the reins. So this is Sean Hart from Amazon Sellers Alliance. If you want to say hello, Steve, then I'll do a little housekeeping. Stephen, say hello.
Hello, I'm Stephen Heath, Indiana farm boy that left the country when I was about 16 and a half, and been in Asia ever since, coming back and forth. So, yeah, I'm glad to give you any information you guys would like or any help to source to, do business in China.
Good deal. Well, that's what we came here for, Stephen. I know I told you, but I do at least once a week a webinar trying to help folks out, with getting their Amazon business or online e-commerce up and going. And it seems to happen more often than not. People are like, well, I'm hung up on this whole Chinese sourcing thing. I don't really understand how to do business in China or where to start. So that's what we'll try to clear up here. First, just a few housekeeping things, folks. Number one, if you haven't joined my email list yet, it's very important that you do that. Some people are spoiled because I'll actually send out a text message before the event starts, and honestly, my text message list keeps getting shorter and shorter, as well as my patience in doing that. So if you want to keep getting all the updates for the latest webinars and keep getting all the valuable free content, then I highly suggest that you go to the website AmazonSellersAlliance.com. That's AmazonSellersAlliance.com, and then you'll have access to all the past videos that are posted on there, as well as a little sign up where you can put in your name and email address and actually join the email list and get up-to-date information for new webinars. Also, if you'll notice to the right of your screen, you should have a live Q&A. Stephen, what did you have to do to turn your Q&A on? Was it just a matter of clicking the blue box?
Yeah, there was a menu picked up on the left.
Okay.
So
yeah, so mouse over to the left of your screen, guys, to the left of me there, and then it should pop up a little menu, and you see a Q&A, kind of a little text box there. Click on that, and that should open up the Q&A on the right, where you can post live questions. Steve and I will try to get to those as they come up. If they're relevant, we'll answer those live. Already have a lot of questions prepared for Stephen, so get your Q&A up and running, and remember that if for some reason you can't make a live webinar, everything's recorded and immediately available on my YouTube channel, and you can also watch the live event on YouTube if you're out and about from your cell phone or something like that. There's a link embedded in the actual event. If you go to the event page, you can find the YouTube link and basically open that up on your smartphone or whatever and watch the event on YouTube in live. The other thing is, I'd like to give an open invitation there for any other professionals. I know a lot of people have been sending me emails about how they'd like to present to the audience that we put together, but if it's not relevant to the subject, and that's selling on Amazon and more importantly doing private label and things like that, then probably not going to invite you on. But in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have a couple more high volume sellers on, people who have privately coached one-on-one, as well as Gene, who is a trademark attorney. He's on the call tonight to get an idea of what I'm going to expose him to. And Gene's promised to do an interview with me live. He's going to walk you folks through his view of getting trademarks in order to protect our products as well as our listings on Amazon. And so really looking forward to that conversation. I know a lot of you have requested that. So now that we have that out of the way, Stephen, if you would, give us a little bit about your history. We know your name is Stephen Heath. Tell us about your history and where you've worked, went to school, how you learn the Chinese language, and keep it 5 minutes or less. But give us a little
Sure.
bio on yourself, if you would.
Okay, well, I'm kind of like a cliche. This, Indiana rural farm boy. Grew up on a farm and wanted to get out of the big, the small town and get into a big city and see the world. And that's how I was at 16. I was an athlete, as boxing. I had a Thai trainer that I met in the United States. Took me under his wing, and he took me to Thailand to box professionally over there at 16 and a half. So I actually graduated early, and I lived with him in Thailand for about 3 or 4 years. I pretty much fell in love with language more than I did boxing, and I was a better language learner than I was a boxer. That's an absolute fact. So I assimilated into the culture quite easily, and picked up the Thai language, which is tonal, like Chinese. It's a tonal language. I picked that up with about a year and a half. So I kind of figured out at a young age that I had a little bit of a knack for language, or just a love, a desire. I think anyone can learn Chinese or any language as long as they have a desire and love to do it. So I really don't believe in like anyone that's like just naturally talented to do one thing. I just think that
Yeah,
whatever
so
you want to do in this
I
life, you
think
can do the next year.
for me, it's a lot easier to hire someone who already speaks Chinese than to take the time to learn it, Stephen. So I'll leave that up to you.
For some people, that's the route they want to go. So after I was in Asia, in Thailand, Southeast Asia, for about 4 or 5 years, going back and forth from the States. It was around 2000, and I could see China open its doors to the world. It's they're giving 2 billion people access to a free market economy that were locked in communism for 50 some years, almost 60 years. So I'd known, living in Southeast Asia, that most Southeast Asian countries, the best businessmen were Chinese, Indonesian Chinese, Thai Chinese, and I could just see if you give 2 billion people access to capitalism that never had access to a free market, that there would be some sort of incentive in there for me. I had no idea what I'd do. I didn't know what I was going to do, sourcing or what, but I knew that Westerners speaking Chinese might be valuable in that
So
economy.
you weren't in any type of business at the time then, Stephen? You were still just getting your feet wet a
Yeah,
little bit?
yeah. I had a gym, a boxing gym. I was getting out of boxing, and I just wanted to finish my education. And I went to the language route. I went to Beijing University, studied there for a year, studied Mandarin, and then I came back to the States and finished a degree up in Indiana University. So,
Okay.
and then after that, I got a degree in Mandarin and kind of just started working and sourcing for different companies throughout the United States.
Okay. All right. Wow. So as far as business experience, I mean, I'll tell a little story about how you and I got acquainted. But uh, what experience did you have in business or in industry before you and I had met each other?
Oh gosh, after I got my degree, I was still in China. I just opportunities would just walk in front of me, whether I had schoolmates, Indonesians or other Asians over there that had their dads that sent them there to actually source. They wanted them to go to China, learn Chinese first, so they could actually source for them in China. I've dabbled in pretty much most every industry before we met, and others after. But medical, electronics, automotive, furniture, all textiles of pretty much any kind. But a lot of cut and sew products. I got 3 factories now in China: a plastic factory for injection molding and bottling. Um, and then I have a cut and sew factory that I can pretty much make anything that a needle has to be passed through or sewn together. I can
Q&A.
do that. I have about 40 people there at that factory, and
Okay.
an
Well, I
electronics
hope
factory.
Daniel's listening because he needs a bottling factory, plastic injection and bottling. So pay attention there, Daniel. You know who you are. Go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, and then the newest thing that I've done here in the last 3 years is PC boards, printed circuit boards. So any
Okay.
electronic device has to have this, whether it's an alarm clock or anything. I have to have a printed circuit board.
Okay.
So and that's been big in my business with the heaters. We did the iHeater business before. The
Right.
business that you sold, I still make those heaters, and I do those PCB boards in house
Okay.
now. But most of your products out there, I think use some sort of plastic or some sort of textile or some sort of piece of electronic device. So these three areas, industries are pretty much my main interest, and I probably won't go out of the.
Okay, well, I'll give people an idea how I met, and this is the way I remember it, Stephen. Back then I was a different person. That's in my former life, I like to call it. But we had a huge business. We were doing 25 million a year in sales, direct response, just selling Chinese stuff. And what happened? We needed someone to help us expand into South America, and someone who was willing to learn Chinese and that kind of thing. So, posted a simple resume online, and after about probably 15 or 20 people. I met Steven, and he was young. He's a couple of years younger than me, but he was just on fire. Excited about business, wanted to get involved, and ready to go to work immediately. So he came in under my employ in that business back probably 2010 or so, and quickly. Outgrew my company and went on his own to develop his own sourcing and set up an office in China from there. And did I tell the story correctly?
That's pretty much it. Yeah, that's in a nutshell. Pretty much
Okay.
it.
Yeah, actually, I remember my business partner at the time basically said, "Get your ass out of here. I mean, you're too smart for this. You need to be in China doing your own thing. You're really
Yep,
doing yourself a disservice by not having your own business." Is that right?
that's absolutely right. And I told you that the other day. So
Yeah.
that's yeah. You have people in your life that kind of just tell you what you don't want to hear, but it's what you need to hear, and
Yeah.
that's
Yep, that's true. That individual's still a part of my life and still important to me. He's one of my mentors, and his opinion is definitely valuable to me in a lot of different areas. So
yeah.
let's jump into a little Chinese business there. So
Sure, yeah,
uh,
let's get right into the nit and gritty.
heck yeah, I need to say hello to Octavia. She sent me a message. Hello, Octavia. I got your message. Glad you could join us, as well as Luke. Hello, Luke Adams. Glad to see you. And Mr. Malcolm Crawley coming from Manila, Philippines. So also Dylan. Hey, Dylan. I had Dylan on last week, 16-year-old lady killer. All right, so talk to me about some of the experiences that you've had in China in recent history. I mean, you said you do a cut and sew factory, but tell me about your business experience and where your comfort zone is.
My comfort zone is I'm a registered company in China, so I'm an export company with three factories in China under that parent company. So I have the plastic factory, textile factory, and an electronics factory. So these three main areas are what I specialize in. Outside of that realm, if someone needs something sourced or anything like that, I pretty much source in every industry there is.
Okay.
So you have to, in order to get anything out of China, you have to use an export company. That's just part of it. You can't just buy from a small factory in China and get the best price and expect them to be able to export. They typically are at the mercy of other export agents in mainland China.
Okay, is that why sometimes, Stephen, when we make a purchase, of 1,000 units or so, we'll purchase it
Mhm.
from ABC Industry Company, and then when I look at my bill of lading or my shipping records, it comes from Yiwu Import Export Trading Company.
Exactly.
So that kind of
Exactly.
explains the relationship. So the export import company actually does the dirty work, sort of what you're going to do for your clients. They're doing that for the Chinese factories who don't really have export right.
Exactly. The small mom and pop, the smaller factories, they don't have the funds to become an actually export company. They rely on the bigger export agents, export companies to fuel their business.
Okay. Hey guys, if you can hear the background noise, I apologize for that. But the guys that take care of the lawn around here, they have the worst timing ever. I mean, they'll show up 5 minutes after someone cleans my pool, and they'll throw like 2 acres worth of grass into my pool. So right now, I decided to have a private one-on-one webinar, and some idiots out here with a leaf blower and a weed eater. So I'm sorry, but that's life. Like I always say, sue me. It's free. All right, so moving ahead here, uh, can I trust, I mean, me or anyone else, Stephen, can I trust a Chinese supplier on Alibaba or some other online website?
Maybe you can't. Maybe not. but really, why take a chance? Here's what the main thing is. The biggest thing that foreigners do, Westerners do wrong in China, is that they buy a product from a factory in China the same way I would buy from you. Say if you had a factory in in Texas and I'm in Indiana, I want to buy from your factory in Texas. Heck, our emails and our dialogue between what we say. Okay, Sean, I want X amount at this amount. Okay, Steve, give me your money and wire me the money here, and that's it. As long as there's a dialogue, there's a verbal agreement, then that's legal in the States. In China, that doesn't fly. You have to have a written contract, and you have to have the stamp of the owner of the factory and his signature on that before anything is really certainly safe at all.
So the
Because
written contract, is that a form of a written contract would be like a purchase order or a pro forma invoice, something like that, with
no,
the company seal?
totally separate. Now, this can be in English or Chinese, preferably both, but this is a contract for mainland China, and
Okay.
this gives complete security to the foreign, entity that's doing business in China that wants to be safe
Okay.
uh, in China. So, if someone asks me, "Can I trust a Chinese supplier?" It's like I don't know. It's like buying a car without a title. You don't even know it's not your car. You know,
Right.
you don't know where if tomorrow someone else is going to repo your car if the cops are going to come get it. So,
Okay, I get it. So what
yeah,
I try to tell people, the Chinese business people are similar to you and me. I mean, they
mhm,
want to do business, sell us product, and make a profit, and they want to develop a relationship with us.
absolutely.
When it comes to pulling the trigger and getting started with a new supplier in China, it really I'm fearless when it comes to that, but a lot of people are kind of apprehensive about sending their money over there. So
Mhm.
my question is, does Alibaba give people a false feeling of security with the whole Ali, escrow service and that sort of thing?
Well, you see that the IPO. You see that IPO. I mean, gosh, it's the biggest in history. I mean, uh, but unfortunately, a third of all ads on Alibaba aren't real. They're fake. They're people that are acting like an export agent or a factory, and they're not. They're just an individual that posted a fake, website up there, and with products and pictures, and yeah, and you call a person and he'll find it. I'm sure he'll get it made at a much higher price. But here's one thing: there's Alibaba English, and then there's a whole nother realm to find factories in China that are off the grid.
Okay.
I would never ever personally buy anything off of Alibaba website or even visit a factory of Alibaba in
Okay.
English.
This is
Um,
coming from you because you have your foot in the door over there, and this is your
yeah,
world. I mean, China is your realm. So,
yeah,
yeah, the way I look at Alibaba, it's a great place to get started if you want to get a good idea of how much a product would cost,
hmm,
and send out several inquiries. I mean, you may send 10 inquiries on Alibaba, you're going to get 3 or 4 back because the other 5 or 6 are too busy talking to somebody else or whatever. And here's how I envision it. And this is kind of what I teach.
yeah,
Stephen, I mean, I do a lot of business in China. I don't speak Chinese
hmm,
and all that kind of thing, but we do send a lot of money over there. I've only been jacked one time, and that was because
yeah.
I was trying to buy some bootleg handbags for my wife to do a home party with. So I
Who's
deserved
it?
it. It was $1,200. It's my fault. So
Okay.
the way I see Alibaba and the tradesmen, I mean, you can be anybody you want to be on the internet or on some kind of website. And if I know somebody, my name's, I'm a Chinese trade guy, and I
Mhm.
know the guy around the corner has a factory that makes the best leather buggy whips money can buy. Well, the
Yep.
guy with the factory doesn't necessarily know how to market his product. He's just a factory. He knows how to make buggy whips. So,
Exactly.
as an opportunist, I
Mhm.
see a margin there where I can go, I can solicit a buyer first from the States and say,
Mhm.
I have buggy whips for $1.80. Well, in
Mhm.
reality, the factory's probably going to sell them to me for half of that.
Mhm.
So you don't know the difference as an unsuspecting consumer. So I'll
Mhm.
say, yes, here's the buggy whip. You send me your money. I'll go give the buggy whip factory what the buggy whip really cost. The difference is mine, and I'll ship it to you. And there's
Exactly.
really no problem with that because that's capitalism, like you
That's
said, at its
capitalism.
best, and
Yep.
it's people, making a profit. But where the problem comes, from my experience, is
Mhm.
that when you want service for that buggy whip, or you need parts, or there's a
Yeah.
problem with the shipment, this
Yeah.
trade guy has no clout. I mean, with the factory, if you're dealing
I don't.
directly with the factory owner, they're willing to support you and do what it takes to make you happy and make that order right. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the biggest thing. You don't know who you're dealing with unless you're signing a contract with someone you actually know. You've met, you've been in front of, and you can actually substantiate that yeah, this person is who they say they is. They actually have a factory. I've been there physically. That's the best way to do business.
Yeah.
I know that's not a perfect world, and I know a lot of people don't have the luxury of going to China on a whim and getting a translator and doing all that.
I've been there with you. It's hilarious to watch you run around as a round eye and speaking the native tongue. Speaking of which, give us a little credibility here. Tell me, say, hello, my name's Stephen Heath from the U.S., and I'd like to cooperate with your factory buying buggy whips. How do you say that in Chinese?
That's cool. Buggy whips, that's a good one. 你好，我是美国人。我要买你我的马匹。
Yeah, what he said. Now, tell me,
Yeah.
say, Mr. Factory Boss, give me the best price.
你必须给我你最好的价格。
That's what you want him saying for you, folks. Okay. Enough fun. Let's move forward here. You know, I'm all about fun. I could do this all day long. So, tell me why do Chinese businessmen have a bad reputation here in the U.S. and why people are scared to work with them?
Well, it's about history. I mean, you really have to understand where they come from. You show me the boy, I'll show you the man. Okay, so just like I was talking about before, I saw, in 2000, a door opening of an economy that had never been. It's not even an economy. It was a communist system. Every man for himself, survival of the fittest. There is a line. Even today, you go to a major city in Shanghai, beautiful city. There's still people that act uncivilized and cut in line. Why? Because it's ingrained into the system that, hey, there's only a certain amount for a certain amount of people.
Yeah.
And if you don't get there fast, if you don't cut, you don't fight, you don't push, you're not going to get it.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
So
I remember my
this.
first visit to a Chinese
Mhm,
airport, Stephen.
mhm.
My God, I'm used to standing in line and wait to get my ticket from the ticket agent. Jeez,
Yeah.
man, there was no line, there was no organization. It was nuts.
When you're a big boy, then they're like, they have no qualms like trying to cut in front of you. I mean,
No, they were literally reaching around me and handing their
exactly.
passports. I'm like, get away from me, guys.
Yeah.
I've waited here for 25 minutes. It's my turn.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, they have just really no filter when it comes to that, And like
Yeah,
you said, it's deeply ingrained in them. So
it
getting
is.
back to why they have a bad reputation here.
Well, that kind of flows into the business culture. It flows into the business culture that you don't want to give anyone any slack. You don't want to give anyone any, unless you're really a big factory, then you'll cater to you have the money to spend. You can take the risk to cater to a big client in the United States and give them the payment terms they want, 90 days after it arrives at port and stuff like this. But just they're shrewd. They're shrewd because of the culture. Chinese businessmen are shrewd because of that, and businesswomen. I do a lot of business with a lot of factory owners now are owned by women. So I'd say about a third of them that I deal with are women-owned factories. So,
Wow, that's
but they're
pretty
all
good.
yeah, but they're all
Okay,
shrewd.
so for here in the U.S., I mean, we know what you're doing in China with the industry you're working with. So, what types of industry have you worked with here in the U.S. Sourcing and taking care of the Chinese factory negotiations? I mean, I don't know if you can give us any names or anything, but are there any big companies that you worked for in the past where you've put deals together for them, or any big brands or something like that?
Yeah, I don't want to name drop right here or anything like that, but most of the companies I worked for the past before I started my company for about 7.5 years, including you, have always been factories, suppliers to Walmart, Costco, um, automotive like Advanced Auto, AutoZone, like these. So a lot of car accessories, a lot of small electronics. For retail outlets like Walmart.
Okay.
So yeah,
All
but
right.
also medical devices, medical supplies, braces, medical supplies,
Well,
autumn.
most of my audience, Stephen, are Amazon sellers or eBay and online sellers. I try to push the Amazon system, but you know, if these guys, you're talking about medical braces and things like that, kind of when you walked around my office a couple weeks ago, you picked up a couple items that we were selling, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh yeah, we can do this, we can do that. So when you talk about cut and sew and plastic injection, I mean, I think you're covering a huge portion of the industry. So
Mm-hmm.
if someone actually says, here's a, you know, here you go, an iPhone cover. Here,
Mm-hmm.
put this in Steven's hand. Can you get this done for me? If not in your factory, can you find someone who can do it?
If you give me that, if you take that right off your iPhone right there and you give it to me, you send it to me. The mold for that, how many inches tall? The mold for that would be about $3,500 to make the mold, and in about 3.5 weeks, we'd have a quick match what you have in.
Okay, now what about, are you able to find factories already have molds for like off-the-shelf type product? Keeping in mind that,
Yeah.
guys, in case you don't know this, Chinese factories are not like a general store. They don't have products sitting on the shelf for inventory.
Yeah.
Everything's made to order, but they
Exactly.
do have molds that they've already used for a generic or a house product that they can make for you. So
Mm-hmm.
don't let the $3,500 scare you. You know, I told you, Steven, you're talking about people, their average order going to be $2,000 to $10,000. So you know, in the beginning, you know, you're not dealing with big factories here, so my audience are going to be, you know, they're not going to be footing the bill for a mold charge. They're going to sample it first and try to use something that's ready made.
Yeah, yeah. Didn't mean to scare anybody. Now, if you're going to bid production and you have a big client, you have someone that's going to do 30 upwards of 30 or 40,000 units, then it always makes sense to open a mold. And it depends. Like here's like this is a memory stick. So right, you can see that. That right there, that mold would be $500. So it's a little piece of plastic. It just depends what it is. Every mold's complex, but no. To start off with, you wouldn't have to do that. There's all kinds of products in China that you can not get right off the shelf, but you can find something very similar to what you want.
Yeah, they're already producing it. Like this morning, I put a sample order in for 1,000 pieces of a, you know, plastic injection deal, and you know, the minimum order quantity was 10,000, but the factory said, hey, look, we're running an order to the customer, so if you want to do it now, we'll use the same mold. We'll just imprint your name on those 1,000 pieces. So
There you go,
you,
like that.
you can
Yeah.
pretty much do anything you want to do. So, um, so what do you think's the biggest challenge for a newbie when they're trying to buy in China?
Gosh, communication, really, and I mean, because if we're going from the question, are we going to deal with Alibaba English? Or are we going to deal with the real factories in China that are off the grid?
So
Uh,
I'm a newbie. All of a sudden, I want to sell USB memory sticks. You know,
okay.
what's the biggest challenge for me? Is it finding a supplier? Is it trusting the supplier? Is it transferring the money? I mean, what's the biggest challenge that you see?
It's price. I mean, it's price. You're going to pay 25% more. I mean,
Okay.
if you don't speak the language, you don't know the culture, and you can't hire someone that does. It's on your team that you can trust. You can trust, just 100%. Then you're never going to get there. You're going to be stuck at Alibaba English with a price that's always 25% higher, because all
Okay.
these people are middlemen on the English part. Now there's Alibaba Chinese. There's a whole different realm of it's not called Alibaba, but it's different. It's all in Chinese, and there are 3 times as much suppliers than you see on Alibaba English. But it's all in Chinese. And
I never knew that. Why didn't you tell me that?
well, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna look at it and read it? I mean,
I'm gonna hire you to read it for me.
but no, but you have to. There's a billion different products, and you have to know exactly, what would you call something very, very specialized in Chinese. The words can get really complex. So
So
to
Google
fly,
Translate's not going to do it for us.
it's not going to do it for you. It's going to get you halfway there. It's going to get you halfway there. But I mean, I've had products that, I mean, I got a lot of Chinese friends in China, and they do the same thing I do, but they didn't know really how to translate it right from English, and it was a new product in China, and they couldn't find it. But I went on Baidu.com. It's a
Yep.
Google of China. I could find it because I knew, probably what it's called or what it consisted of. But uh, okay, so you're back to your question. Communication is the biggest, issue for
Okay.
newbies. You have to get past the the middlemen. and you have to deal directly with a factory owner. That should be your goal.
Okay.
If that's not your goal, then you just should just accept that you're going to pay a 20% to 25% higher price.
All right.
And
So
that's
real quick here, just say the first thing that comes off the top of your head, Stephen. What are the top five mistakes people make when they're looking for a Chinese supplier?
the top five mistakes. I would say they trust one person. They put all eggs in one basket. They'll give the one person the power, or a factory the power. Say if you have one big product, say I have a little heater, or this remote right here. There's all kinds of products in this remote. There's rubber, there's plastics, there's a PCB board inside. There's all kinds of components in there. If I just trust one person to say, okay, Steve, it's this price, then me not actually researching every raw material in this, then
Okay.
that's my
Kind of like
fault.
the way you dissected my heater back in the day.
Exactly. Exactly. That's how you get the
Here's the
best price.
frame. Here's the circuit board. Here's the heating element. That sort of thing.
Break it down. Break it down. And that's one of the mistakes they make. Is they trust someone that doesn't really break it down for them, or they break it down and the prices are just they're astronomical. So, but you have to do it on your own. You have to know someone that
Okay.
can help you do that. That can help you source out all the raw materials part by part, component by component, so you
Okay.
know exactly where you stand. A pure Chinese price, because that should be the goal: is a pure Chinese price.
Sounds good. And we need to let them make a little bit of money, but they don't have to double or triple it on us, right?
No, that's right.
Uh,
I mean,
before I have more questions here, obviously, but I'm going to get to one here that comes from
sure.
Eddie Lozano. Before I do, I want to bring your website up and share the screen so that people can get an idea of what it's all about.
Mhm.
Steven's website is cinosupplyint.com.
Mhm.
This will give you an idea of what his site looks like. And while we're checking this out, you guys can go there, cinosupplyint.com. And Eddie wants to know, when Steve works with a client, are there any restrictions on products he can help source? For example, if a product is too heavy, too large, or too complex. Also, will he help coordinate product components from different manufacturers into one unit? I think you've answered that, so if you want to elaborate.
Yeah, no, there's nothing. There's nothing too big. I mean, as long as the client's willing to pay the air shipment for samples for these big samples, it doesn't matter what it is. Yeah, anything can be sourced. It doesn't matter how dynamic or special or specialized it is. It's that's the fun of it. That's the fun of
I know
what I
you love doing that. You love
do.
dissecting that and telling me how I paid too much for that gas generator and things like that.
Exactly.
We're marketers, Stephen. I mean, the people on this call and myself, all we want to do is sell widgets for a markup and make some
Uh-huh.
money on it. When it comes to taking an iPhone apart and trying to source every little unit, we can't do that. We have to rely on people like you or other procurement agents that we find on online websites to do that for us. At the end of the day, all we want to do is deliver a quality product and make a markup on it. So
Absolutely.
that's where guys like you come in. That's why I think it's really important that I introduce you to everyone. So don't worry, you guys are going to get all the details and Steven's direct contact information at the end of this call. The
Mhm.
website, I pulled it up there, is cinosupplyLTD.com. He explains how he operates on there, and basically, like I said, he operates sort of free because he's not going to charge you anything up front to do this work. He makes his money on the other end, which you can read on the website. So you elaborate a little more on that, Stephen, but let me move forward here a little bit.
Yeah.
How should someone determine if a Chinese supplier is legitimate?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. And you can't do it online. You can't do it in a cubicle halfway around the world. That's obvious. You obviously can't do that. You have to be there on the ground. That's one requirement. That's the first requirement, is that you have to be on the ground in China with someone that you trust there, or with a translator that can confirm that they actually do have a physical address. They do have a factory. All these variables, these things.
Okay.
Um,
One of the things that was kind of a determining factor for me, or a couple of things, Stephen, is
Hmm.
number one is the street address. So if you give me your street address and I do a Google Earth on it, which is, it's pretty elementary, but if you're in a high rise somewhere in Hong Kong or some major city, it's probably not a factory.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. It's an office and it's definitely a factory. Yeah.
Okay, and what about from your experience? I mean, from my experience, and I've said this before,
Mhm.
if a factory is if they're legitimate, they should have an ABC account or Agricultural Bank of China account.
They
If they
should
ask me to Western Union or something, and or they have some
totally
strange Chinese account, I mean, has that been your observation as well?
run for the hills if you hear something like Western Union. Absolutely. Run for the hills.
Well, that was my next question. It was
Yeah.
exactly this: is PayPal okay or Western Union?
No, I don't believe so. I mean, you're going to do a bank transfer. I don't know how much your bank fee is in whatever state you're in. My bank fee is like $35 to do international transfer, a wire. Um, I think if you transfer, over $1,000, Western Union's at least going to charge you that much, maybe more.
Yeah.
So there's no reason why anyone really has to use Western Union. No one knows what Western Union is in China. I could ask all my friends, "Hey, do you know what Western Union is?" And they wouldn't know what it is. All my Chinese friends.
So if
So
my supplier from Alibaba or some other source says, "Hey, just Western Union the money," then I should run for the hills.
exactly.
That's
Yeah.
how I sent the money for the fake handbags.
How much?
No, do
How,
you know
how
how I sent it?
you're gonna buy Western Union?
Western Union, buddy, 1,200
Huh.
bucks,
Yeah.
disappeared, no recourse. I don't want to scare anybody. That's the only time, and I've done millions and millions of dollars in business in China. But
Uh-huh.
Steven's just trying to tell you the truth. If somebody, if they say Western Union or PayPal, then they're not sophisticated. They're not a real factory. They
Don't
may
even
be
have
a real trade
a.
guy, and they will deliver the product, but you're paying
Yeah.
too much and you have no support.
Yep. Exactly.
So, what are the biggest differences in Chinese business culture when compared to U.S. business culture, Stephen?
Um, I think I don't know. They have a little more patience. We're a bit more impatient here in the states than a lot of Chinese. I think we just want to get the deal done, and go back home. That's what I've experienced with most of my clients. So there's a lot of different subtle aspects, just different.
You talk about patience. Oh my gosh, it
Yeah.
drives me nuts when I'm emailing a Chinese supplier and I have like, it's a $400 or $500 order, and I could care less if it comes in a purple box or a poly bag, and these
Yeah.
guys are like, "Oh, are you sure you want 48 in a box because we normally put 50 in a box?" Who
Mhm.
really gives a crap? I just want the order, ship it to me. But they're so
Yeah.
patient, so they're going to wait another complete 24-hour cycle for me to answer an email. And finally, I'm
Exactly.
like, I don't care. Just ship it. I don't care if you make them upside down. I just need product in my hand so I can do my test and my promotions. It drives me nuts. I hate patience.
Yeah, it's. I think the biggest thing to answer your question, and this is kind of a general, but especially in business, is that people have no respect for your time, and they waste your time sometimes, but it's unconsciously done. It's not on purpose.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so it's hard to fault them sometimes because it's just ingrained in the culture. But um, yeah, time is money for us, and we know that it's kind of ingrained in our culture. Um, so but they might put etiquette above, uh, speed. To do something, to do a task, very fast, or to get it done, to finish a task.
I
Um,
remember I go over to put a deal together, and I'm with the factory. We're doing our negotiations. I'm asking for price. I'm asking for part support, things like this. It'd be a $2 million deal, and
mhm.
I'm sitting here expecting an answer. I'm pushing the fast forward button, trying to
Right?
get the deal done so I can get
Yeah.
back home to where the food
Yeah.
tastes good. And these people, when we get done, they won't give you an answer. They want to take you out to dinner and wine you and dine
Yeah.
you, and eat all them duck feet and crazy crap that I seen you eat. I don't even know how you're still alive, but that's stuff I would feed to my dog. So if it doesn't come in a bottle like beer or something like that, or come out of my suitcase, I don't eat it. So I know you think
I
that's
know.
hilarious, but hey, it got me this far. They're just
Yeah.
way too patient for my liking. I just want to get the deal done, like you said, and go home. So, I
Yeah.
think when you absorb the culture and you really plan on developing a long-term relationship with a Chinese manufacturer,
Mhm.
then it's important that you go through that process, or have someone like Steven go over there and represent your company and go through that process
Mhm.
with them. He'll eat all the duck's feet and weird peanuts and strange shaped mushrooms and wow,
Mhm.
all kinds of weird stuff.
All for your
Fish
sake.
with eyes. Whoo. So yeah,
Hey,
let him
but
do
let
it
me, I
for
want
you.
to hit on something you just talked about, though, Sean, about they take you out to eat. They don't want, they want to waste your time and stuff like this. If any of the listeners, I'm sure, a lot of them will go to China and, and try to source on their own to get to do it on their own. And I, wish them success and everything. But you're going to have Chinese people that want to take you out and give you something. They want to throw out the red carpet. They want to take you out to eat. They want to take you to karaoke. And if you're a single guy, they want to take you to do things that are unspeakable. And and if you do this, if you accept this, then they, in a sense, they think they have the upper hand, especially if you haven't talked about cost yet and you haven't had an agreement on price and a final contract signed.
Oh,
And
very good information. Yeah, I've been told that by several people. That's good that you share that with us. So basically, you're telling them, you're admitting to them that you owe them something if you accept a gift of any kind, whether it's
exactly.
a beer or a foot massage or a free
Mhm.
ride from the airport. If you
And it's
accept anything,
unspoken. Yeah, and it's unspoken, but it's like it's in the air, though. It's like, Sean, you take me out tomorrow and buy me a Porsche, which I hope you do. But or something like that. Or you took me out to the Ruth's Chris or have a steak dinner, which is a bit more realistic. But I would feel like I owe you. That
it's simple. It's basic law of reciprocity. If you give gifts, then people, they just are inclined to do business with you. So
exactly.
what Steven's saying is be careful accepting that, that free translator or that free ride from the airport or that
Hmm.
dinner after negotiations. Just get your business done, get what you want, and get out, or send an experienced rep there, somebody who's already been through all that. So now that the
Yeah.
webinar is coming to a close, these idiots are finished with my lawn. So great timing, these guys. Next thing, they'll be ringing the doorbell. Um, sorry here. Next question. What are the advantages having someone in your corner or in my corner like you working directly with Chinese supplier who speaks Chinese and understands the culture in China? I think we already covered that, but if you want to answer, go for it.
Well, sure. I mean, they can look at my website too. Anyone's listening, but I think if I was in a place where I wanted to go to China, I wanted to start commerce, I wanted to buy something at a pure Chinese price, the best price I could get. Um,
Is that a good term to learn? Pure Chinese price.
I think that's my term. I've always used it because it's pure. It's a pure cost. It's what it costs in domestic China. It's not what Bob's getting in Indiana or something. It's a pure Chinese cost. If I were Chinese going to the factory, this is the price, the lowest price that I know that factory owner would take for this product.
Okay.
That's what I call pure Chinese pricing, and um, yeah, I think that should be anyone's goal. And
Okay.
sometimes we don't always get there, but the closer you can get there, the better.
Well,
Uh,
first, tell me what your perfect client looks like for you and your business.
in my business, how I operate my business is I take the VAT, which is called the value added tax in China. Anyone that exports in China, uh, any export company in China, they get the tax back on any product they export. And these products can have the tax rates from 4% all the way up to 16%. Depends what kind of product it is. Go ahead.
So you're saying, for example, if you go put a deal together for me,
Hmm.
I'm going to transfer my money directly to the factory, and you're going to handle all the export documents and paperwork, and that entitles you to some percentage of the deal from the Chinese government, not from me, not from the factory. You're basically putting buyer and seller together, and you get a kickback from the government just for doing the export.
Exactly.
So that's what you mean when you say you work for free.
Yeah, but I get paid by the government. I pretty much I find commerce for the government because that's of China. That's what I get paid for basically,
So
and
if you
that's
put
what
a
most.
$10,000 deal
But
together for me, and you get 6% VAT, so you get $600. You're happy with that,
I'm happy with that. I'm
and
happy
in
with that. You
hopes,
see,
obviously, that you're going to do future orders with me.
exactly. Now, what you're going to get on pretty much 80% of Alibaba is what you're going to get people. Of course, they're on Alibaba, and if they're talking to you in Alibaba in English, they're a sales rep. They're a middleman, without a doubt. They got their percentage, and they're more than likely not the owner of the factory, because most factory owners in China, it's in rural areas, and they don't have the education. They just spent their time and their effort to develop one product or one sort of industry, and that's what all their energy went into. And then they hired some sales rep that spoke English to open an Alibaba website. So that person that opened that Alibaba website that speaks English, without a doubt, absolutely gets 15 to 25% commission. That's at the lowest point. Then
Wow.
you get the factory owner that has his 8% in or 10% for the VAT. So after it's all said and done, you're looking at 35%.
That's a
Uh,
long ways from the pure Chinese price.
Pure Chinese pricing, a very long ways from the pure Chinese
Okay.
pricing.
So
So
you can actually bring a product to the table at what you call pure Chinese price. You'll
mhm.
handle all the export paperwork, and then you'll just wait for the government to cut you your check.
Yeah,
So,
because that's a pretty secure check.
yeah, it is. So if the cost is $1, it's completely transparent to me as your client. If it's a dollar, it's a dollar.
It's a dollar. It's a dollar. You're not going to get anything out of the country unless you pay tax out of China.
Okay.
Make no mistake about that. You're going to pay tax, and that's going to be in your in the price of
Okay.
your product. So
So what is getting me back to my question then, Stephen? What does your perfect client look like? I mean, give me a profile of the people you want to do business with, because you have let's see, 127 people watching you right now.
okay, I guess my perfect client would be someone that can actually see that they need someone with the sort of expertise and knowledge, know-how to actually to really enter the Chinese market and get that pure Chinese pricing. But you'd want to find someone that actually doesn't have any incentive, any middleman mentality that's
Okay.
in there as well.
So
So
can it be somebody that's already in business, already importing from China, kind of like I do, or does it have to be a newbie? Could be big business,
no,
small business. What's an average order that you like to
it
look
could
at?
be.
Because you're going to put a lot of time in and a lot of boots, if you will. So I mean, what's too small of an order for you?
Anything under a 20-foot container would be, yeah, would be, of course there's samples, but as long as I can, get the feeling from the person, from the client that, I don't, I've worked with mom and pop, and I've worked with, $50 million companies before,
Okay,
so,
well, a lot of the
and everything
people
in
on this
between.
call, Stephen,
And I want to grow with
a lot
someone.
of the people on the call are going to need 400 or 500 units on a weekly or biweekly basis. Maybe 1,000, 2,000 units. So
Sure.
a lot of the products that are selling, they may
Uh-huh.
sell 40 or 50 a day, and they may want to keep 30-day stock and so you
Hmm.
know 30-day supply in stock, and probably going to use air freight.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine. Air
Okay.
freight's fine. And in my experience, that I've all my shipping rates and all my air freight's always been cheaper than a customs broker in the United States, based in the United States.
I
So
think you've
yeah,
proven that
that's
to me a couple of times.
yeah.
But you have a little bit of
So
that Chinese mentality. You have a lot of patience, and you like to split hairs a lot. People like me, they just want to. They're in a hurry. If it costs me $2 and I'm selling it for 25, I really don't care if it
uh-huh.
costs me, $2.04 or $1.95. To me, it's $2. It doesn't matter. So keep that in mind when
I
you're
got
working.
you.
We're going to be coming to a close here in about 10 minutes, guys. So post all your last minute questions in the Q&A box there. I have one here I'm going to read, and then I'll let Steven share all of his details with you so you guys can reach out to him directly. So, what's the number one mistake you see people make when sourcing in China? I think we already covered that, but Gary just posted that question. So, I think the number one mistake he says, Gary, is not dealing directly with a factory, and not having somebody in your corner to get through that language barrier or cultural barrier. You agree with that, Stephen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah, absolutely.
All right, so if someone on this call or within my network who watches the video later, because it'll be available on YouTube, wants to get in contact with you and try to engage you for your services, how would you prefer them to
Sure.
do that?
They got my website there. That's you put up already. That's the best way to get a hold of me. My number's on there. My cell phone in China is on there. My cell phone in the U.S. is also on there. So you can catch me either or. So I'd welcome any kind of conversation on any interest you have on sourcing in China. If I can be of any help to you, or if you need my services, so I welcome any phone calls. You
Great.
guys.
So phone calls, email, doesn't matter. No preference.
Yep, that's fine.
Nice. All right. Well, doesn't look like we have any last minute questions here, Stephen. So I guess we'll just wrap it up. Guys, if I didn't recommend or believe in what Stephen can do, I wouldn't be presenting it to you, and I wouldn't be wasting an hour and a half of my life talking about it. So I
Thanks,
believe
John.
there's a need there, and I've had a lot of people hit me up for help with sourcing and things like that. And you guys know I'm busy with my own business. More than happy to share information and resources and network with you. But when it comes to time, that's one of the things that I find a hard time trying to replace once I've spent it. So excuse me, let Steven do the work for you guys. He's willing to do it, and if it doesn't work out, it's not like you guys are married long term. You can get in, get out. If you don't like what he's doing, then get away from him. So
Yeah, and then one more thing to add, if anyone wants to just explore samples, you asked me about drop shipping 300 or 400 units at a time. That's fine. And also, go a step further. If someone needs samples or something, most of the samples I get from my factories, I don't get charged for. Just as long as you don't go overboard and want 20 samples of one thing, I can get one or two samples of pretty much anything for free, if next to nothing, as long as it's not like a plasma TV or something like that. You know.
I don't think I'd want a Chinese plasma TV anyway.
They're already all Chinese plasma TVs.
Exactly. All right. Well, I appreciate you taking an hour to spend some time with us here, Stephen. I'm sure you'll be getting hit up with some emails and whatnot. And in
Thank
case
you,
you
Tom.
guys didn't catch it, if you got in late, it's Sino. Go ahead, give me your website again. Spell it out for them in
It's
English.
yeah, SinoSupplyINT.com. SinoSupplyINT.com.
SinoSupplyINT.com, guys, and tell him Sean sent you, or you got it from the webinar, and then he'll know how to treat you. So he knows you're not a container buyer. You're going to test the water a little bit before you
Sure.
jump in.
Yeah.
What Seth calls firing bullets instead of cannonballs.
What's that?
Seth calls that shooting bullets instead of cannonballs. You got to get your feet wet first before you
You
jump in.
do.
So a
You're
lot of
absolutely
times, we'll have air freight boxes come in every day until we get established in a market on Amazon, and then we'll start doing container ocean freight to
right.
save time or to save money. Definitely not save time. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, appreciate it, Stephen.
Thank
Enjoy
you,
all
Tom.
that nice weather you got there in Indiana, buddy. And I'll be back up there for a few days here at the end of the week. So maybe I'll look you up.
Okay, buddy. Sounds good. We'll see you soon.
All right. Good night, everybody.